Hi and welcome to the Weenie Roads podcast. And for our listeners, can I just clarify that the police sirens you may have heard on an episode a couple of episodes ago was most definitely not the police coming to check in with Jose on David's whereabouts. Where is he, Jose? What have you done with him?
I swear I do not know.
Actually, the real reason David is not with us today is he's painting his house and actually hasn't seen the shows and movies we're going to be discussing today. In this episode, we're going to be reviewing Transformers Rise of the Beasts, the National Theatre cinema experience of Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Fleabag, Jennifer Lawrence's sex comedy No Hard Feelings, new Pixar film Elemental, and a very unique guest reviewer for The Little Mermaid. No, Jose, it's not an actual mermaid before you ask.
Well, that dashes all my dreams.
And at the end of the podcast, we're going to have our tightly sealed spoiler section. We're going to delve into the post-season review of maybe the end of Ted Lasso. So let's get going. First up, Rise of the Beasts. Now, Transformers Rise of the Beasts is the seventh film in the live-action series, but almost a direct sequel to the best live-action Transformers film, in my opinion, the excellent Bumblebee, which was directed by Travis Knight.
I just like to say, as much as I do enjoy Bumblebee, I think the original Transformers with Shia LaBeouf, I know it sounds crazy, is just slightly better because it wasn't too over the top compared to some of the sequels. I think it's still put together a good film.
I think with the first Transformers film, I think what worked for it was didn't go full Bay quite yet on it. You know, he still adhered to the classic Transformers storylines and that, and then he just went to shit after that. To be fair,
yeah, and I'll admit that part of it might be just the nostalgia of being one of the first movies that came out, like being the first movie to come out, and being nostalgic for me. I'm not saying it is. I mean, it is just it's still, I feel like, a good movie. Like the characters were there.
Speaking of nostalgia, Jose, this film takes place a decade later from Bumblebee in 1994. Being a 90s kid, as I was, you're going to like some of the music in this film, Jose. There's some amazing music in it. And the film is directed by Stephen Capel Jr. And yes, I have to make the obvious joke. Is this film in capable hands? Well, Capel is he's relatively inexperienced in terms of blockbusters. In fact, he's only previously made a 6-part HBO miniseries about Emmett Till. If you don't know about Emmett Till, look him up now. If you don't know the story like I didn't, well, look it up. And
actually, you might want to wait till after this podcast, then look it up.
Yeah, obviously listen to the podcast and then go and look it up. And the director, Capel, his first major movie was Creed 2. So this is only his second movie, which is amazing to get this kind of budget and, well, for Creed, getting that kind of budget and that scale. So, I mean, yeah. I'm not actually that big a fan of the Creed films. I watched Creed 1, so I didn't bother with Creed 2. For me, honestly, the fact that Bay is not directing this adds an extra couple of stars on for me.
Yes, double up on that. I saw Creed 2, great film. It was well done. And do have to say, I'm really glad that Bay isn't the director. Yeah, is he a producer, though? That's the question. Yeah,
but I think he's just exec producer, to be fair. Because
there we go.
And again, as you watch this film, I mean, before we get into what I think of the film, I'll just do a bit of brief plot. So this isn't going to be spoilerific. This is basically the setup for what's going to be happening in the film. Gotcha. And the setup is this film attempts to bring back Unicron, who was last seen in the form of Gemma Chan at the end of the last Bay film. And this film's just going to ignore all of that. Here, the prologue has the big guy in full horned planet-eating form after we find out he's after a MacGuffin called the Transwarp Key, which literally sounds like someone out of a transporter in Star Trek. Now, this also introduces us to the Maximals, a race of beast mode Transformers whose home planet is attacked and destroyed by Unicron at the start of the film, so they flee to Earth, taking the key with them. We meet our main character, ex-military electronics expert Noah Diaz, played by Anthony Ramos, and the film immediately gives him a busy working single mother and a sick brother with him. So he needs money at this job interview to get money for his sick brother, and he tries to steal a car, which, of course, is a Transformer called Mirage, voiced by Pete Davidson. And he is introduced to the world of Transformers. I did not know it was Davidson until the end credits, to be fair. So he wasn't obviously Pete Davidson. You also get Dominic Fishback as Eleanor, who is basically just Science Girl. Her character trait, defining character trait of the film, is exposition. Like if there's anything sciencey or historic is needed, she gets the dialogue. So it's a really thankless task, man. It was a bit of a shame as well, really, because Haley Steinfeld was so good in the lead in Bumblebee. You know, it's like, great, we've got a female lead in a Transformers film. We can forget about all the horrific model stuff that Bay did and like dodgy porno camera angles. We've actually got a non-sexualized lead character in it, which was great. but it's kind of a bit. I mean, great. It's great to have a woman, an African American character in here, which Dominic Fishback plays as Eleanor. But she is kind of a step back in that she doesn't really have a character other than being
exposition dumb.
Yeah.
I feel like as much as Haley Steinfeld would have been a great addition, I think she got detoured honestly from the Spider-Verse movies. That could have been a big part of it.
She's a busy girl, and she's multi-selling pop star as well.
Oh yeah,
and
I forgot about that
Hawkeye
too.
as well.
Oh man, yeah. I think they probably just had to move on to new characters, which it seems like there were some good points and some not so great points, but that's what you got to do.
So stuff happens, and we get the return of Optimus Prime and Bumblebee with some new characters thrown in. We get Arcee, which is a really bad English pronunciation, but it's Arcee, the first female Transformer, who you might remember cropped up out of nowhere in the original Transformers, the animated movie from the 80s.
Oh,
and she is
man.
in this for the first time. And yes,
Oh, wow.
we get our first Mexican accented Transformer, Wheeljack. And when I heard the voice, I was like, why do I know that voice? Because, Jose, it is only Danny Rojas himself.
Oh,
Cristo
wow.
Fernandez, who plays Danny Rojas in Ted Lasso, plays a Transformer in this one.
Love it.
Love so
it.
Just would like to see more of him, to be fair. So you get the standard Transformers movie set up where the humans team up with the Autobots to stop the bad guys. And this time the bad guy is Unicron, but he's kind of this whole planet-eating thing, so he's not really in it a lot. But his lackeys are led by a character called Scourge, and he's voiced by Peter Dinklage. So, really, what people want to know is this another good Transformers film after Bumblebee? And I'm happy to confirm it is a million times better than most of the Bay films, but not quite at the level of Bumblebee for me. So, a little bit on my pros and cons. Pros, this is probably the first film where the actors do really well with what they're given. Taking into account we are in a Transformers film after all, but Anthony Ramos is really, really good as Noah Diaz. And after a destruction-filled prologue, setting up all the robot stuff, the film really takes his time setting up his story and his arc and his family in it. And it's greatly appreciated. It makes you actually care about his character. As I mentioned, sadly, Dominic Fishback's character is just exposition girl. I will say the casting, this film is definitely a pro. Almost every character in this film is African-American and based from Brooklyn. And I actually listened to an interview with the actors on another podcast recently, and they were saying they were actually rewriting bits of the script, like the odd word here or there. They'd be like, oh, someone in Brooklyn wouldn't say that. They would say it like this. And Ramos was saying when they watched the film in Brooklyn with an audience, like just littlest things would set the audience off because it was really authentic to where they were from. And I've seen loads of really positive comments about it. And what's nice, I haven't seen any negative comments about people going, oh, why is every actor in black? No one's saying that, which is great.
That's wonderful.
Actually, and when you go and see a film like this, exactly, it's based in Brooklyn, right? That's where the characters are from. So that's where it's all going to be from that community. And and that's what I love is that you walk in and people of all races were watching this film and going, it's a really good Transformers film. And that's the world we want to be in, where you can just watch a film and just go, doesn't matter who the cast are, doesn't matter what their ethnicity is it a good film, yes or no? And that's the only thing you should be literally looking at the film for. So this is a great step forward for representation, bearing in mind it's a Transformers film and human characters aren't really what people are there to see. But like I say, Ramos is really, really good in it. One of the cons, the plot is absolute gubbins as usual. And as an original Transformers fan, as an OG animated series from the 80s fan, for me, they still can't better the scope of the 80s animated movie while still trying to take like some of the best parts from it. The soundtrack is almost exclusively 90s hip hop.
Hey.
We're talking Wu-Tang Clan, Nas, LL Cool J, A Tribe Called Quest, Notorious B.I.G., and it's just wall-to-wall 90s rap and hip hop, man. Not even being, and again, I'm not like a big rap and hip hop guy at all, but the music works perfectly for the film and the setting and the characters. It does really, really well. So, yeah, overall, I'd say this is probably the second best live action Transformers film after Bumblebee. Got a great lead performance from Ramos, great voice work for the robot. I mean, the casting for some of the robots was like, that sounds like Michelle Yeoh. Oh, it is Michelle Yeoh voicing a giant bird Transformer. And like I say, the 90s hip hop soundtrack's great. It complements the time and the place of the setting in the film. There are 2 post-credit scenes. The first, which is just a utterly bizarre twist that I don't think anyone sees coming to set up future stuff in the Transformers universe. And the second one's just, your standard throwaway fun scene. But you know what? give it a watch. It's a good time, and I'm sure younger kids will absolutely love it because it's not as long as the other films. There's actual editing in it, and you can see what's going on in the action scene. So,
nice.
Yeah, I'd definitely give it a chance I'd say stream it, Jose. When you get a chance to see it when it's on TV, maybe not worth going out to the cinema for, but when you see it on your somewhere, there's so much stuff coming out of the cinema. That's why I'm only saying
that's fair. Like, there is a lot of stuff coming out this summer.
We're entering that window of blockbuster every week, multiple blockbusters every week.
Yes.
I did actually ask for some comments, and we got a comment from one of our friends over at Cage Fighting Pod. And again, not a UFC pod, just a really big fan of Nicolas Cage. And their comment was, it's not as good as the first or B, which is kind of what you said there, Jose, but it's better than the rest. Granted, that's not difficult. That said, it's still painfully dull for long stretches in the middle of the film. One thing better than base Transformer films, the writing for the humans is much less robotic. Awesome comment.
Pun intended, I assume.
Pun intended. Great one there, guys. Yeah. So moving on, something that's not actually a film or a TV show, but it became a TV show, and I saw it in the cinema. I recently went to my first National Theatre live cinema screening. So, Jose, for people in the States, I don't know if you've got something similar. This is basically where you get a one-off special screening of a major West End theatre show that's been filmed specifically for a later release in the cinema. So it'd be like getting a Broadway show shown in the cinema.
I don't go to a lot of shows.
No, but this would be, when you look at your cinema listings, you'd be like, oh, there's a Broadway show on. Is that a thing over there?
I don't think so, and at least not here in Florida. It might be something in the larger cities. I mean, it doesn't sound like something that I could find an equivalent to here in the States. The closest I could think of is the Hamilton movie, so to speak, where they recorded the live showing of Hamilton the play.
Yeah, that's what it is. But again, arguably, Hamilton was the biggest musical of all time at that point when they did that.
Oh yeah.
But no, there's quite a lot. Like there'll be like all like the real Shakespeare Company stuff will be put on there, and some of them are really long. They're like 3-4 hours. So you pay a lot. You actually have to pay like quite a bit extra for it because it's what they call event cinema or screenings.
Yeah, so I'd have to say that I don't think we have an equivalent to that that I know of, but probably in the bigger cities.
But and the one I went to see arguably wasn't really like a big theatre show. What it was a screening of Phoebe Waller-Bridge's one-woman show version of Fleabag. Now, I was lucky enough to see this actual stage show on my birthday back in 2019. Literally, I was second row watching the show live. But it's only 80 minutes. And this show, she originally performed it live at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival way back in 2013. So 10 years ago, she did this show. Wow. And that's kind of what launched her. It led to the eventual commissioning of the TV show. And what makes the theatre show experience in the cinema really good, and kind of what sets it apart from the TV show, is that she does all the voices for the other characters.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to think of a better phrase than Gollum-esque, but that's all I can really think of. So she's kind of turning and changing body posture and voice and kind of having a conversation with herself. And what really blew me away was, one surprise is that the character of Martin in the TV show, her sister's husband, who's American, played by Brett Gelman, in the play, he's Scottish. So she just starts doing a Scottish voice. But like I say, it's a bit like what we was talking about with Extraordinary a few months ago, where, when the girl changes her posture and all that kind of stuff, and she's doing this set. So that blew me away when I was watching it.
I have to say, I do have one example we could use of someone doing that other than Gollum.
Yeah, which is probably a good thing.
Oh, it's a Spider-Man reference. The original Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe.
Yes, that's a good one, actually.
Yeah.
William Dafoe, man.
I'm a little saddened that you didn't remember that one.
I mean, it was over 20 odd years ago, to be fair. And there's been a lot of Spider-Man films since then. Yes. But honestly, it's somehow even more impressive than a TV show, because Waller-Bridge cleverly works her way through most of the events of season 1 in about 80 minutes. So it's like season 1 of the show in 80 minutes. And it's kind of starts and this bookended with the job interview. I will say it does take some admittedly darker turns. And like some stuff that's even more shocking. I mean, the TV show was pretty groundbreaking and shocking when it came out, but some of the stuff in the play, they couldn't even get away with on TV, I think. So I would say, if you ever get a chance to see this anywhere or see it, it's just the show. It's so worth seeing. And like I say, you can easily see why this show, one woman show, was commissioned and turned into the series that it became.
Wow.
And why every service just threw all their money at her afterwards because she's fantastic in this, mate. She's like the total package. She acts, she writes, she directs. You know, she
Oh,
wrote Killing Eve, which was a massive show.
no way.
She was the writer of it. She basically created the idea and then handed it off to someone else. Goes, right, I'm going to go do something else.
She's
You know,
great. Honestly, I love her work.
well, it's funny because her partner is Martin McDonagh, who is the writer director of The Banshees of Inisherin, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So, I mean, the talent.
Nice.
Can you imagine what breakfast is like in their house? You know, she's there
Yeah.
writing another hit TV show and for streaming. He's there writing another amazing play, an Oscar-winning film. Just amazing, the
man.
talent of these people, man. And also, I got a like from the National Theatre official little Twitter account where I retweeted how good I thought this play was, and you should go and see it.
Nice little clap there for you. Gotta say
golf
it's
clap.
awesome. Golf clap. Golf clap. You're right.
Now, Jose, a very interesting review because neither you or me have seen this next film that's going to be reviewed. So, who's
Ooh.
doing the review, you may ask? Well,
Yes.
this is a little bit of a drop-in interview, and it's a very unique one because today, for one of the big films that we may not have covered recently, it was The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
And David usually would be our Disney go-to guy, but he hasn't seen The Little Mermaid yet in the cinema. But fortunately, a friend of the pod, Simon, and his partner, Nat, they sent us this voice clip of their daughter and some of her friends' reactions after seeing The Little Mermaid. And you know what? It's a kids' Disney film, so does it really matter what the critics think? All that matters is, did these young girls enjoy the film?
What was your favourite bit?
The singing.
The singing. What was good about the singing?
I don't know.
My favourite bit was when Ariel came out of the water.
My favourite bit when Ariel sings.
That was a good bit. What about you? What was your favourite bit?
It was when Sebastian was singing.
That was funny, wasn't it? And what did you think about the movie? What did you think of it?
I liked it. I like it when the sea witch hurt herself.
Yeah, because she was a baddie, wasn't she? Yeah. Thanks, girls.
Oh,
So
wasn't that sweet?
So, I mean, there you go. Target audience loves the film. Doesn't matter what critics say. Young girls love the Little Mermaid film. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Yes, sir.
And staying with the House of Mouse, I accidentally saw a Disney film in the cinema the other day. We had a secret screening preview in at Cineworld the other week. And I was really hoping it was going to be Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. Because there was all these hints and clues they tweet on their socials. And one of them said, this film is out of this world. I was like, something to do with superheroes. And I immediately thought Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, superhero. She's in that. So I just got it completely wrong. I was so disappointed, actually, when it wasn't.
Oh.
But here's the funny thing. Elemental. Sorry, I forgot to mention. The film is the new Pixar film, Elemental. So we got a preview screening of this a couple of weeks before it was on general release. Man, the reaction online afterwards from people connected to a Cineworld who have the cards, like I do. Do you know what, man? Like, Pixar's a mark of quality. Yeah, I was disappointed it wasn't the film I wanted it to be, but I was still going to stay and watch it. You know, I'd had my dinner. I was there for a night out. I'm going to go to film, man. And you should never leave a secret screening, man. Like, boos to the couple who left when they saw it was Elemental. One couple just got up and walked out when they saw the title card come up.
That's not the whole point of being at the movies.
Well, it's not the point of being. The thing is to do the secret cinema stuff and the unlimited screenings. You're paying like a premium for it, so you should surely be quite a bit of a cinema fan, right? You should be open to like. I can understand walking out if you're not a fan of the genre. Like there was one last year, and it was a Finnish horror film called Hatching, and second people saw the subtitles. About 20 people left. Wow. And I always thought fair play to this one old couple who once they were about 15 minutes into the film and realized it was going to be a horror film and a body horror film at that, then they left. But fair play. They waited to see what the film was and then they decided they didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was funny just chatting to people around because like the guy 2 seats next to me was convinced it was either going to be Indiana Jones 5 because it had an earlier start time. Oh. Usually these films start at 7:30, which means by all the time the ads and trailers are out of the way, it's going to be closer to 8 o'clock. And this film started at 7. So again, you're thinking, okay, that's your 2 hours. It's 2.5 hours. She's going to finish after 10. So he was convinced it was going to be Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Another guy thought it was going to be Mission Impossible. I was like, mate, it was the world premiere in Venice yesterday. We're not getting it that quickly, man. They're going to just milk the shit out of this in the world promotional tour. Instead, it was, do you know what? Looking at the comments online on the Cine World, because Cine would always post afterwards, what did everyone think of the secret screening? And just the amount of entitled dickheads on there. I want my money back for the food I bought in your cinema. I didn't want to go out on date night with my missus to see a kid's film. No, you went out to see a secret film, mate, which means you don't know what you're going to see. So, tough shit. I'm sure in the small print it says, if you don't like the film and you leave, you don't get a refund for food you bought. No, tough shit, man.
And if we all know at this point, even quote-unquote kids' films are still entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, one of the other rumors was it was a film called Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, and I looked that up, and it had really bad reviews. I was like, if it's that, I am probably going to leave. So, having said all that about making a big stand about not leaving, I would have if it was that. Just because, again, I get if you life's really busy, man. If you want to watch a film, it's a film you really, really don't want to see, then fair enough. On to Elemental, eventually. It's
the actual movie.
Yeah, the actual movie. Now, it's a really sweet but simple film about a world where all four elements, earth, water, air, and fire, try and coexist. Fire is usually kept separate due to, well, fire racism and the fact they usually set stuff on fire. And what Elemental is, it's a really nice love story between Ember Lumin, a fire elevator element. Fucking spell check, man. It's a really nice love story between Ember Lumin, a fire element, and Wade, a water element. And there's not really much more to the story than that. It's just these two elements realizing, oh, wait, we can interact. We can coexist in the same place. It's not like it's not gonna like burn the whole world down. And it's a simple story with the usual feel-good messages about family and being yourself and racism is bad, etc. But I felt it was all fairly service level. So at its best for me, it's kind of like a mid-level Pixar film. The voice work is good, and as expected, it has gorgeous visuals. It doesn't have the emotionally devastating pull of Pixar's best, like Toy Story or Up. But hey, do you know what? It's definitely worth a watch when it comes on Disney Plus, probably by the time that this podcast comes out. Because that was one of the rumors as well, that it was going to Disney Plus really quickly. So I'm glad I saw it. It's a good film for if you've got like a niece and nephews, which I know you have, Jose. It's definitely going to be worth put it on. It'll keep them entertained for a couple of hours.
Excellent. It's kind of interesting to know that what we consider top tier Pixar movies are movies that crush our feelings and make us cry.
Of course, that's literally the reason Pixar were invented and are on this planet, is to destroy us emotionally in a crowded room full of other people we don't know in the dark.
Yes.
And finally, before we get to our spoiler section, it is time for Jennifer Lawrence's new R-rated comedy, No Hard Feelings. Now, we've already talked a fair bit about this film's trailers in the recent episodes, and I've finally seen the film, which, as we mentioned, is R-rated, which is a 15 certificate here in the UK. And it's a sex comedy that feels like it dropped out of the early 2000s. And the basic plot is that 32-year-old Uber driver Maddie is about to lose her house, and she's already lost her car, and being an Uber driver without a car isn't very good. And she answers a very dodgy advert, which stipulates she will get a free car if she, quotation mark, date, quotation mark, and by that we mean fuck this couple's 19-year-old son. Now, we did wonder if all the jokes were in the very funny first trailer, and, well, yes, they were. But just as I thought, Jose, and just as we called it on the last episode, I thought that despite the film's slightly dodgy premise, it was going to turn into like a really sweet coming-of-age story. And that's exactly what we get. It's a really good, fun film. Obviously, it's an out-and-out comedy, but like I say, I think the comedy's front-loaded at the start of the film, and then as the relationship develops between Jennifer Lawrence and relative newcomer Andrew Barr-Feldman, who plays the teenager Percy, you really start to care for the characters, and it's really well written. And fair play, man, they fully commit. There's a scene where Jennifer Lawrence goes full Eastern Promises, and I'll leave that reference for people who know. It's a Cronenberg reference. If you get the reference, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, go and see the movie. And
I'm not one of those, and so now I'm curious. You've made me want to watch the movie and more. I plan to watch the movie, I just haven't yet. Yeah,
then look up Eastern Promises once you've seen the movie, and you'll get the reference. And a clever joke, hopefully. Where, as I say, it takes two to tango, and relative newcomer Andrew Barr-Feldman is superb as the introverted teen Percy. He's really funny. And what makes their fledgling relationship work is that Lawrence's Maddie is spectacularly immature for her age herself, and she's not really a proper grown-up. And it's funny, like the introverted kid, he's almost more of a grown-up than she is. And so they're kind of at different levels emotionally, which kind of works as their kind of relationship develops throughout the film. And like I say, it's actually quite sweet. As we did note before, it definitely has notes of Luke Greenfield's 2004 sex comedy, The Girl Next Door, starring Emil Hirsch and Alicia Cuthbert.
That's one of my personal favorite movies as well.
Great film. It's really underrated, man.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this. Yes, it's formulaic, and you can see every beat of the story and plot way before it happens. But honestly, you don't mind the generic plot when the company of Feldman and Lawrence is so enjoyable, and that they both fully commit to the film's more outlandish scenes. So, I mean, so far it's not done that great at the box office, and it's only took 24 million on a budget of 45 million. But I don't think it's on a general wide release yet. I think it's on in the States especially, it's on a smaller release, and it's going to be, I think the positive word of mouth is going to kind of build it. I mean, hopefully Lawrence's appeal and the good word of mouth is going to give this film some legs, because it's a great coming of age story that you should definitely go and see.
Yeah, I think that's one of the few things that with comedies, if you got a good cast, you know, you can really elevate the quality of the writing.
Well, I mean, there's not many actors in the film, to be fair. Like, I mean, it's pretty much just the Lawrence and Feldman show. So, yeah, they've done really, really well, man. I mean, you got the parents in it. You've got a couple of her friends, but it's not really any other characters. A lot of the film is just the two of them. I mean, Matthew Broderick plays his dad, which is quite clever. That's quite nice. I always, whenever I see Matthew Broderick in a film, especially with teenagers, I'm like, come on, where's the Ferris Bueller reference? And I didn't spot one. So that brings us on to our spoiler section of the podcast.
This is your spoiler alert.
Right, we are here for a post-season review of Ted Lasso. How many seasons have we had? Is it one? Is it 3 or 4? I've literally forgotten.
Three
3 seasons of Ted Lasso.
You have their fall at the end of the first, their rise at the second, and then the resolution at the third, as called in by the end of the first season, Ted Lasso.
Yes, and I think we're going to be referring quite a bit to first season Ted Lasso, because arguably for me and other people as well, the show pretty much changes its genre from season 1 to season 2.
Yes.
When it started, it was a half-an-hour comedy based on a sketch that Sudeikis did for NBC Sports to promote Premier League football in America. That's literally where the character came from. And they spun that off into a sitcom. And it was about, season 1 was the clueless American coach who doesn't know the rules of football. And it's all like the standard American in England, not understanding things. I mean, admittedly, I do agree with him that tea is basically brown toilet water. But it was funny, and it was, and the heartfeltness when it worked. And it was short. They were half-an-hour episodes. The problem is, in the second series, the show became an hour-long drama. And more as the show went on for me, it became less and less about football and more about the characters' personal lives. And I just don't think they struck the balance as well as they ever did in the first series in the later seasons. What do you think, Jose?
I agree with you in what happened. It did go into a drama. It did focus more on the characters, but I think that's why people still enjoyed it quite as much. I mean, the first season's just easy to take. It's happy. It lifts everyone's emotions. And then what it does is it takes those emotions and then says, okay, let's add some complexity to this comedy series and make people love the characters more. And I know already that we're disagreeing on the end result. So this is my lead up to it. I think the next 2 seasons, honestly, they're not as easy to take in. But I think when you look back through the character arcs, they did an amazing job with some characters that weren't always obvious right away.
And I think I agree with you to a point. But I think the characters is part of the issue. What they started doing was expanding out from the main cast. They're like, well, shit, we got a team full of footballers. We better give them characters more than one sort of token. He's like that. I mean, literally, season 1, it was just they are that nationality. That is there is nothing more to them than that.
That's true. Very true.
And I mean, I think what kind of impacted the show most severely, and this is perhaps a bit inside baseball as the term goes, is that the show was created by Brett Goldstein, Bill Lawrence, and Jason Sudeikis. Jason Sudeikis obviously plays Ted Lasso, and well known as an actor who had many years on Saturday Night Live. Bill Lawrence is the king of really good sitcoms, but he did
Yes.
back in the day. He did Scrubs, and again, Scrubs was a show that perfectly balanced comedy and drama and emotional, heart-tugging stuff
Yes.
really, really well. Everyone
Big
always
fan.
immediately thinks of the Brendan Fraser's episodes they did of that.
Oh man, such a good
Yeah.
one.
Brett Goldstein, who's one of the, I don't know if he's a creator, but I definitely know he's one of the co-writers on it. He is Roy Kent. He's there. He's there. He's every fucking where. Roy Kent. Yeah.
I think he's also proven himself now with a quick other reference to Shrinking.
Oh yes.
Being a part of another creative team that created another great show.
Well, let's stay where we're on that. I think this comes back to my point of why, for me, Lasso kind of falls apart as it goes on from that superb season 1 to an okay season 2 to a frankly terrible season 3 for me. So I'm laying it out there. I think season 3 is fairly bad. There's good stuff in it I like, and there's certain characters. There's characters I like. I just feel that, and I'm finally going to get to it. Bill Lawrence, basically, you can see that he is the showrunner in season 1, right? It is that classic Scrub style situation comedy. You can just see him firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
What happened was he was working with Goldstein on another show, which you already mentioned, called Shrinking, that came out after season 2 of Ted Lasso. So that already means in season 2 he wasn't as full control of the show as perhaps he was in season 1. Then, of course, by season 3, Bill Lawrence is just down as exec producer. He's not actually involved in the day-to-day running of the show at all. Yeah. And who is? It's Jason Sudeikis, who has not been a showrunner on a show before. And because I was watching season 3 going, what's the show called? Ted Lasso. Where the fuck is Ted Lasso? Where is his storyline? He doesn't have a storyline. I mean, in season 2, he had a storyline. In season 2, it was had all these anxiety attacks and there's all this stuff to do with his father. Great, really good, deep, dramatic stuff. It's character development for his, that's fine. We want more of that. All we got in season 3 was that none of that. We got a few Zoom shots of his psychiatrist, who was a main character in season 2, who just basically turned up for no reason at all really in season 3. And it was just his really annoying son. And I'm sorry, he is one of the worst child. I know we shouldn't dump on children, metaphorically, not both metaphorically, actually, but his son is terrible. He's just so whiny and annoying.
You know what? I'm gonna second that. I'm not a fan of the character, but luckily they only sprinkled him in. It wasn't a very big part of the season.
No, and I mean it's funny because you compare. I know it's not just being like mean to child actors, because the young actress whose name I've forgotten, who plays Roy Kent's niece Phoebe, is brilliant. She is so good. Like whenever she's in it, she literally steals the scene she's in.
Elodie Bloomfield.
Elodie Bloomfield.
Elodie Bloomfield. I'm speaking with my American accent.
So
yeah, I mean, she's great. Yeah, and
she's
honestly,
great.
One of my favorite scenes is the episode where she realizes she has bad breath.
Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah. Season 2. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, one of the pros of the show is the arrival on the scene for everyone of Brett Goldstein, Roy Kent. He is the MVP of the show. Like, what a character arc he's had throughout the show. Except he doesn't in season 3. Because season 1, he's like the Asian pro. Season 2, he's retired, trying to find his place in the world. And in season 3, he doesn't really have a work issue. He's just a coach there all the time. So that side of it's gone. And they split him and Keely up for literally no reason. And then don't put them back together again at the end of the series.
I mean, I think it's left for interpretation. They're mending things. He stayed over the night, so we can only assume what happened there. But I think that what they kind of implied there is it's a slow progress to come back together. It's not something that's easily fixed. And I think what Ted Lasso as a show in general did was it set up situations where you think things are going to go horribly bad, but what the characters end up doing is actually talking things out properly, or if anything, managing things in a way that aren't destructive. And so I think that's why that the ending may have not been quite quick enough for them to come together. And to be honest, I think their split was a little odd. It just didn't make sense.
And then they suddenly gave Keely a girlfriend for a few episodes, who immediately... It's funny because the actress who plays her is in For All Mankind, and she's superb in that.
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
She was terrible in this. So like,
I think just the idea of having Keely be with someone else, I think it was an interesting one, but woman or man, I just think that they didn't put it through.
Her storyline was
properly.
terrible this season. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
it really was.
they decided to give her like a. And Juno Temple is a superb actress. It's amazing how many people didn't. She's kind of like Mia Goth back in the day, because so many people in the States did not realize Juno Temple is English until Ted Lasso, and yet she's been in loads of films down the years in the States, always doing an American accent. She was in Horns with Daniel Radcliffe. She was in Killer Joe with Matthew McConaughey. She's done an absolute ton of. She was in that shortly cancelled HBO music show Vinyl. She was one of the leads in that, playing in America. New Yorker in that she was playing. And again, you wouldn't know she was English.
Yeah, because the whole idea of her in The Office, I mean, granted, there was a lot of side characters that didn't, but like her office manager, I really wanted there to be more with that.
Yeah,
like,
and she and the office manager lady, oh shit, I forgot the name. Katie Wicks, I think is the actress's name. She's so funny. And she, again, I expected her to have a bigger role because she has only recently left Ghosts in the UK, which is like the biggest UK sitcom. She was always stealing every scene in that. And then I think she left in like the third series of Ghosts in the UK. And then this was like, I think one of the first things she'd done afterwards. Someone's like, she's barely got anything to do in it. You didn't actually need her annoying friend Shandy. You could have just had a much better storyline with Katie Wicks' character and Keeley.
I completely agree. I really feel like there should have been a more of a butting heads scenario. Like,
I mean, they hinted it in the first few episodes, and then it just fell by the wayside when they brought the other girl in.
Yeah, I really thought Keeley was gonna confront her and just try to make things work, but instead Keeley just played it nice, but I think they could have at least built that up a little bit better.
They needed a bit of edge to her there. They really, and Temple's definitely got it in her to do that, man. And it's almost like they didn't want to make Keeley unlikable in any way. We're going to make her a lesbian for a couple of episodes, and then we're going to turn her back. But then we're not going to put her back with Roy or Jamie. Oh, well, let's just suddenly bring that back in for the last 2 episodes, because what else are we going to have them to do? I will say, though, probably bar Roy Kent, the other person who came out of this show, who no one had really heard of before, and is an absolute superstar now, is Hannah Waddingham, who plays Rebecca.
Oh, man, love her.
I mean, season 1, she had the kind of basic role of, being the spiteful ex who wants to take the team down, and Ted's inherent goodness makes her good. It was a lovely storyline. It was really well done. And she became one of the most beloved characters on the show, and arguably more well-known than she ever was throughout her whole career before Kate left. And it's funny, because I've lost track of the amount of posts I've seen on social media when people are amazed and lose their shit when they realise she is the shame nun from Game of Thrones.
Yes. Shame. I love that. I hadn't seen the show, but I've seen the memes so many times. Yeah. And then to go back and realize that's her, that's amazing.
You don't see the blonde hair, because she's literally got a nun's habit thing on her head the whole time she's in the show.
Yeah.
So so many people didn't realize that. I will say a shout out for Higgins. He genuinely made me laugh most of the times he was on screen.
Higgins was a wonderful character.
So many good one-liners, man. And he got his little jazz club story in Holland. That was well done. I appreciate that.
I figured that was definitely something that they did for the actor, because that just seems so left field mostly.
Yeah. And we have to talk Trent Krim, independent, and Collins coming out storyline. And I thought that was done really well. It was nice to see a whole team react positively. However, I get, and Ted Lasso is all about being a positive show and all that kind of stuff. But sadly, I could not see that in the real world, because there is not one openly gay footballer in the Premier League. Not one.
Yeah. And I think what really made it just seem odd is just that in general, there was this combined with the whole leaked photo of Keely Jones.
You know what it is?
They were just like, oh, we're going to automatically do the right thing, instead of allowing the players, like, we know they're footballers. We know they're going to be a little slower to adopt. Granted, we know that the team is a good group of guys,
but we haven't got that many episodes left, so we better just skip through
it. You got to force it in. And I feel like there should have been some, like, maybe not ignorant comments, but like,
you needed the counterpoint to it to show there's been growth, not just immediately, like you said, not immediately everyone go, oh, it's fine. I'll tell you what I actually saw in on the kind of openly gay thing and sports thing. I was recently watching AEW wrestling the other night, and they've got an openly gay wrestler in a tag team, but his sexuality is not part of his gimmick.
That's
at
good.
all. It's just not. It's not hinted at all. And there was a skit they were doing the other day in the ring where this and they got a rap gimmick as well. So it's quite macho, which is quite funny. But he was wearing all of like the pink colours and the pride gear, and again, it's not being portrayed in a negative way at all, and it's not being mentioned as anything other than that's his personal life. This is his character, and they've kept the two separate. But what was great was there was a bit where he was doing this promo against this other tag team. We've got a female manager, and she starts trying to hit on him, and like even the commentary's like, I think someone better have a word with her, and like he literally just says on the mic, he goes, you know I'm gay, right? And like she looks shocked, and the crowd, and this is a pro wrestling crowd, all start chanting in as positive, he's gay. I mean, where would you ever get that, right?
I love that.
A he's gay chant in support. So, hey,
That's
times
awesome.
are changing for the better, right? If an American pro wrestling crowd can be openly supportive of a gay wrestler, come on, football in the UK, catch up. Is what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it's just that it wasn't that his teammates were accepting so quick. It was just that it was so awkwardly quick.
And it's not realistic. I'm sorry, it's not realistic. There'd have to be I just didn't have time to do that story justice, I think. I mean, I think one of the characters who probably had one of the best arcs throughout the whole series of 3 seasons of the show was indeed Jamie Tart. Take it away, Jose.
Yes. I think a lot of people are big fans of Brett Goldenstein as Roy Kent and even Brendan Hunt as Coach Beard. But I think as a whole 3-season arc, Phil Dunster probably has something of more of like a under the radar, but still probably the most dramatic change, being the arrogant star player who ends season 1 leaving the team, comes back in season 2, and then ends up in season 3 being one of its biggest like supporters of its each player. Like he roots everyone else on, even when he gets that what was the guy's name, Zava, when Zava comes and takes away all the limelight, he's still like, come on, we can do it without him.
I was gonna say, do you know who some of these players are based on?
Or I have a friend who's big into soccer who's told me that there are characters.
Yeah. So Zava was kind of based on this Swedish player called Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who just has that whole attitude in there to him. He only just retired this year at 41.
I think I heard about this, and he said that when he retired, it's like, hey, just be happy you got to see me play.
Yeah. And
so I thought that was great.
Jamie Tart, I'm not 100% sure, but visually, if anything, he's based on a player called Jack Grealish, who plays for Man City. Just in terms of the hair and kind of, he came from like Aston Villa and then went to Man City, and he wasn't immediately a star at Man City, and then this season he's kind of come good as they've won the treble. So
nice.
Yeah.
But I think what would have been nice, and the person I would have liked to have seen have a huge arc, was Nathan, honestly. But
I think
the 3rd season, they just really dropped the ball on him, allowing him to, I think for half of the season it would have been fine him being on his own, but to have an earlier moment, what Coach Beard did was great, but I think Lasso should have been the one to kind of have interactions with him to really bring about that change more fluidly, instead of like at the end, oh, he quits, oh, Beard talks to him, oh, he's back on the team now, even though he's not even a coach anymore.
Yeah, like Nate's storyline, when he became a dick at the end of season 2, when you kind of saw those hints of darkness where he's spitting at the thing and all that. That was really dark, man, in season 2, and that was great. And the thing is, he became a dick, he left, became a great manager, and then quits because he doesn't like his boss, gets a girlfriend, and then he's happy being the fucking kit guy again. I'm sorry, in what world? That would never happen. I'm sorry. If you're a Premier League manager who quits the team that is top of the league, you don't go back to being a fucking kit man at your previous team. That is so... And that's one of my big issues with the show, is that whereas they've clearly involved... I mean, you had a cameo from Man City's manager in the last episode, from Pep Guardiola, right? He had a little scene. So they've got the links to footballers, but I think the writers have to take the blame for this bit, where they obviously looking at all the footballing stuff and go, oh, it's not as important. But I'm sorry, but so in a country of football fans, there's a bit with Ted, right? When he walks in and he says, oh, who are we playing today? Are you fucking joking? You're telling me you're the manager of a Premier League football team. You would have prepared for weeks and months in advance, knowing who you're playing training, you would have like had all that information. And I know they're going to try and play it off in the show. Oh, but it's just Ted's folksy charm. No, but he's shit at his job. He is a terrible manager who should have been sacked months and years ago in it. Like all the success the team has in season 3, it's down to Roy, and it's down to
Beard,
Coach Beard.
Yeah,
and like Ted goes to Holland and just discovers Dutch total football from the 70s and decides to play that way. And they explain that really fucking badly as well. Like they try to explain this whole new technique and how it's going to work, and you're like, no, just stop.
It's been like this already. I mean, I see that what they wanted to do is to attach more story to the characters, but they forgot how to do that fluidly. I think
there's too many characters as well.
Yeah, they didn't.
Every footballer needed a storyline, and I mean, they tried to give Van Damme a storyline, the goalkeeper. And the only bit I liked, I mean, Danny Roach has brilliant star in season 1, next to nothing to do, no storyline at all in season 3. And they had that whole thing with him and Van Damme when they were playing international football for Canada and Mexico against each other, and that went nowhere. Like, where did that storyline go? That could have been. I loved that. I thought, oh, this is going to be cool.
There could have been some, yeah, exactly. There could have been some tension there. There could have been some interactions, and like, granted, the first season was about subverting expectations with how people would interact and being optimistic, and then the second season was like, okay, he deals with happiness because of his anxiety from all this stuff, but they just kind of didn't follow through, and they just dropped it. Yeah,
but I mean, like you say, Ted's barely a character in season 3. It's only the last 2 episodes. They have to suddenly you get a couple of bits of him missing his kid, and that's it. And then he decides to quit. You know, when he announced he was leaving, did he actually announce that? Because I don't remember it.
I don't think he did. No,
like I remember him.
I mean, they didn't show it, but I think they implied it.
They implied it with him sitting there chatting to Rebecca, didn't they?
Rebecca, yeah. And here's the thing: is the one thing that overall, I think it was expected that you had to leak the show from Ted Lasso to the players, but the way that they did it in the 3rd season, it just wasn't fluid enough. It was just a pretty shakily given to the players without really letting Ted finish up his role as the coach.
The problem is, like I say, the show's called Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso is barely a character in the final series of the show.
And I think that's why they can get away with the spin-off where they just do the team.
We're going to mention a little time. Now, getting back to Ted, because I mean, I like Sudeikis and I love season 1, but I just think, and I get it, right? Sudeikis is literally running the show now after Bill Lawrence left and Goldstein's busy doing Shrinking, which is a brilliant show. If you haven't seen Shrinking, I think we talked about it before, go and watch Shrinking, because it's just a better show than this right now.
I don't think
I'm sorry.
so.
But... I think it is. And that's only had 1 season. Now, also, the whole idea throughout these seasons is Ted and his wife are separated and his divorce is final. So why at the very end has he got his suitcases and he's going to the house where his annoying son runs out of? I mean, they could have done some more with Ted's wife, right? What, she started seeing her psychiatrist or...
their marriage counselor.
Yeah, that was
which
terrible.
I think that's not a good joke to play. Honestly, that's very bad. It's like, oh, by the way, you're supposed to save my marriage, and then actually you start dating my ex-wife.
I think what happened in season 3 more than the other seasons is they just ran out of story. They didn't have anything else to say with the characters, and it became an episode of the week storyline. And it literally felt like they were sat around in a writer's room going, right, what social issues should we talk about this week? Immigration, phone hacking, revenge porn. And the problem is, these are all very important issues, but you can't just gloss over them. They were surface level in like 1 episode, and then it was done. I mean, we're getting to the overall here. My overall is the show went from a 30-minute folksy comedy about a clueless American managing a British football team to an aimless hour-long drama with the odd bit of comedy, where after an amazing feel-good first season, things got a bit flabby in season 2. There were 2 utterly pointless standalone episodes in season 2. The Christmas one that just decided to rip off every rom-com going and think it's charming, and it wasn't, for me at least. And the Coach Beard After Hours one, which ironically most people hated, and I actually kind of liked, because it was a direct rip on Martin Scorsese's After Hours. But again, that reference for Scorsese's After Hours, which isn't one of his more well-known films, that was going to be lost on probably 60% of the audience of the show, right?
Oh, you know, it's
They're going to
funny
watch
is,
that and go, why is it a weird one with Coach Beard? If you know After Hours, you get it and you enjoy it.
yeah, I have to say, I know that a lot of people didn't like those two episodes, but I personally know people that really
Really
enjoyed
liked
those.
it. Oh, yeah, yeah. And
So it's just kind of funny how that works out with just different preferences.
well, it's because they initially had so many episodes for the series, and then Apple went, oh, do you want to do 2 more? And they went, okay. So that's why they were
I
kind of
didn't know that.
standalone. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the real reason. They wanted more episodes.
interesting.
For me, bar everything else that I've mentioned, I think the show's biggest downfall was its ever-expanding cast of players and supporting cast, which meant no one really got a juicy storyline because there were simply too many characters, and they got the balance wrong. They tried to give every character a storyline and arc, but because there's so many of them, there isn't enough time to give a character much more than a token. This is your one storyline. This is your one character trait. This will be resolved by here. And the question now is, can there be a Lasso-less spin-off? And I think you get Goldstein to write it and you get back to making the football stuff a bit more realistic. You've got a show. You can bring back the great double act of Keely and Rebecca as they launched the women's football team, which was hinted at in there. And at this point, Roy Kent is more... And I'll tell you, for me at this point, having Roy Kent is more of a draw for me than Sudeikis. And there is a rumour that a show spin-off is coming called The Richmond Way, and it's going to star Goldstein, Nick Mohammed's Nate Shelley, and Coach Beard. Because obviously, I forget the actor who plays Coach Beard, but
Brendan Hunt.
But he's one of the writers and co-execs as well, isn't he?
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you've kind of got some of the guys there. And I think for me, having a Ted Lasso spin-off without Ted Lasso might actually be the best idea.
Here's the question, though, is I think some of the best spin-offs are when maybe just one or two characters break off. I don't know if you're aware of the show Cheers that we had in the States.
Aware of Cheers.
I'm just saying.
One of the greatest sitcoms of all time. And then, of course, Frasier. And so he actually changed cities completely. So that's the weird part about this potential. Boston to Seattle.
Yes.
They're not going to leave Richmond, though.
That's the thing is this, we're doing the opposite. Instead of one character leaving and then we see a whole new location, we're staying with the people who stayed, and then one character who was essential leaves. And so that's the part where I'm kind of caution. I'm worried about is if the main character who made the show originally what it was, yes, these characters were affected by him and they can carry a show, but is it enough to carry an entire series?
Well, no, because you're going to bring in more new actors. You're going to bring in more new characters, right? You're going to be adversaries. I mean, what I'd love to have seen a lot more rivalries within the different teams. Have another team. Like, I get you can't have the actual real teams in there, even though they have the real teams, but then all the football stuff was so badly CGI'd for me, man. Yes. They never get it. No, still to this day, I've never seen football really done correctly on screen. It's just,
it's
never
tough
got it
with
right.
Sports. It really is. The hard part is like I feel like it wouldn't be smart to just keep the coaches, yes, but then have players, and then do you bring in new players that create more strife within the team? Because then this team was so cohesive.
It needs a new
I'd say maybe other teams that they play somehow bring in strife, but it's very difficult to see where this could go long term because this team is so well cohesive.
Well, that you would do a time jump. You jump forward so many years so that you can replace all the players. That's how you do it.
That's a good
simple
point.
Time
actually.
jump. I mean, when it finished, I honestly thought Nate was going to come back and be the manager.
So did I. I think everyone thought that.
And I'll tell you what they could have done to give Ted a better storyline. Instead of just leaving and quitting, he could have got an offer to be America's national coach.
Oh, okay.
I thought that's what they were going to go with it. That would have been smart, but no, didn't do that. Just have him go back to the house of his ex-wife with his suitcases when his annoying kid runs out. And I was like, what? Why would you go to your ex-wife's house? He's an ex-Premier League football manager. He's minted. He's got loads of money. That's why I didn't buy Nate staying at his parents' place. Premier League football managers, man, right? If you're a manager and you get sacked halfway through the season, you still pocket 3 to 4 million. Even at the worst team.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's all bonuses on like where you finish in the league. And like our manager got a massive bonus because he took over when we were like second bottom of the league. And they said, if you can keep this team up, you will get like 5 million bonus. And we stayed up on the last day of the season at half time, we were going down. We were going to be relegated because we had to win and we weren't. We were drawing. So it meant the other team above us were a point above us because they were winning. But if we won, it was in our hands and we would stay up. I mean, they never got that drama really.
I see.
They didn't capture it. They tried with I like the three idiots in the pub and the landlady. That was all done quite well.
You know what? They really pulled back on that too.
You would never have the fans in at training. That's utter bollocks. That would never happen in a million years.
I figured that was crazy.
Because fans would be there filming it and they'd be leaking the plays and shit online, and all the lineups and how they were playing.
You know what it is in the States, in the American football, during the preseason, they have periods of times where the fans can watch the players practice. But that's only preseason. They don't watch during the season. So it did seem a little crazy. I just think that they strayed away from
what made the show great in the first place.
Yeah, they delved too deeply into the drama and too much into conflict that didn't work out right. Honestly, the cast
got too big, man. The cast got too big, and they didn't have anything more to say. I mean, if you think the whole show was originally spun out from a sketch about a clueless American football manager, and they blasted through that in the first couple of, but whereas in season 1 it's folksy and it's fun and you warm to Ted, by season 2 I was like, okay, well, you've got your anxiety issues. That's fine. That's a good storyline. That's an issue that needs talking about these days. But then season 3, he's not in it, barely at all, and he's a shit manager. He is just not good at his job, and you could easily fix that by the writing just being better, like making him even a little bit competent. Like he annoyed me every time I saw him walk in and say some kind of funny thing, because you're like, no, your coaches are the guys who have got the team's position. You still know nothing about football. And I need to relax.
They could have made the episode shorter. They could have made more of a rivalry with Nate. Honestly, they blew the whole situation with Nate. And honestly, the Rebecca's friend, I think her name was Sassy.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, they had a potential love interest there, and they just kind of like, no, we're just gonna have fun with her, and then
she's gonna tell Ted, no, you're not good enough, or you need to sort yourself out. And hey, we're in the 3rd season. He's not going to sort himself out much more,
Yeah, I know. I really thought there could at least been something where they dated. That could have been something more interesting. Like, I get it that they're honestly they had a good start. We're countering expectations, but they just went too much with that. They should have given us a little more.
You know what, Jose? I can see the referee. He's looking at his watch. They think it's all over. It is now. That's all the time we got today on the Weenie Bros podcast. We'll see you next time, folks.
As always, a pleasure, Neil.
See you soon.
We needed roads.